Courage is not the towering oak that sees storms come and go. It is the fragile blossom that opens in the snow. If you're watching on Zoom and you have a chalice with you at home, we invite you to light it now and join us in this morning's service at Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church. I urge you to join us now in our covenant. The words are first in English and then in Spanish. And I'm not used to doing this in the chancel, so I feel like I always have to make sure, are they there? Are they on the screen? Yes, they are, the magic of technology. Join me now in our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, thus do we covenant. La doctrina de esta iglesia es el amor, la búsqueda de la verdad es su sacramento, y el servicio es su oración. Vivir juntos en paz, buscar el conocimiento en libertad, servir a la humanidad en comunión. Este es nuestro pacto. Thank you, and again, good morning. My name is Brian Nelson. I've been a member of this church for this summer. It will be 25 years now. It is my pleasure to welcome you today, along with our music director, Kevin Matthey, our choir directed by Eloise Porter, our tech associates, Adam and Conrad Niesenholtz, our usher, Carolyn Martin, our welcome desk folks, Linda Morris and Louise Rovner, and all the other Emersonians who do so much to keep this congregation running, whether we always see them or not. Every year, it's been my good fortune to be able to create a couple of worship services for this congregation. But because there were times where maybe COVID was over, and then maybe it wasn't, and then it was, and now we just don't know, and because of all that, this is the first time that I've led a service here in person instead of on Zoom for almost 3 years. So I opened up a file containing my notes on the last service I read, and it had these words at the top with all caps. Brian, make sure home phone is unplugged. Cat, address cat issue. Don't forget cat. Set chalice and 2 candles plus backup candle. Set matches and pebbles and water. Take down horror movie poster. Set up phone to text with David and Rebecca. God, we've been through a lot. And we're so often tired and confused. But we have new challenges. How do we find the courage to take the next step? Maybe that's why our theme for our services this month is courage. We are helped in courage by the fact that Emerson UU Church is one of over 1,000 UU congregations across the country, gathering both in person and virtually in these indescribable times to maintain our commitment to a world in which we need not all think alike in order to love alike. This morning at Olympia UU congregation in Washington State, student minister Elizabeth Gesher is delivering a service called Embrace, Don't Touch, about how our culture of physical touch has been so affected by COVID, and how we can embrace each other in love and care with and also without touch. The UU congregation in Lakeland, Florida, holds a flower communion this morning in a service entitled Nurturing the Beauty of Our Diversity. At All Souls Unitarian in Washington, D.C., the Reverend Bill Sinkford will be speaking on a petition for persistence, noting the theme for endurance in the writings of W.E.B. Du Bois, and asking whether liberation calls us simply to be long-suffering or whether change could go viral in our lives. And here at Emerson, aided by readers Paul Markowitz, Amy Noel, and Glinda Tumay, we are doing a service on the poetry of courage and exploring different meanings that phrase could have in our lives. Emerson is a welcoming congregation with a 65-year history of engagement on issues ranging from anti-war protests to immigration reform to marriage equality to climate change. We maintain a tradition of American spirituality that stretches to the founding of this country, claiming leaders like abolitionist President John Quincy Adams and Red Cross founder Clara Barton. The living tradition of Unitarian Universalism, or UU, draws from many sources. Sometimes it can be hard to sum up quickly. There's an argument that a lot of UU is finding a way to efficiently explain UU. In the small group ministry to which I belong, we recently read the words of the cartoonist Charles Schulz, who said that he has problems with faiths that have all the answers. He had Snoopy write a book of theological reflections entitled, "Has It Ever Occurred to You That You Might Be Wrong?" And I thought to myself, we are kind of the church of "Has it ever occurred to you that you might be wrong?" We ask questions, and we know that each of us only has a piece of the truth about existence. We have a mobile that when newcomers see it, I've heard them say, "Wow, I've never seen anything like that before. What goes on in this church?" Because we honor multiple paths to the truth, and we insist that you yourself are your own spiritual authority. Not a book, not someone from the past, not a diocese, and certainly not an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Emerson is regularly served by our settled minister, the Reverend Matthew McHale, who is on sabbatical at this moment. On weeks when he is not in the pulpit, we offer services by guest ministers or interns or fellow congregants like today. We've also been lucky to be served by our sabbatical minister, Joshua Berg, as well as our affiliated community minister, Rebecca Benefiel-Bajor. Used to be that we would have programs that would give you all these names. I miss those. I don't know when we might be getting them back. So I'm going to take a moment now to share something else that used to be available to read every week in our programs, just as a reminder for ourselves. Our statement of mission here at Emerson, which you can also find on our website, emersonuuc.org. It reads, "Believing that our ministries will flourish more abundantly within the beloved community, Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church offers a sanctuary of spiritual freedom where we celebrate and encourage the diversity of heritage, culture, beliefs, and experience shaping our individual visions of truth. We translate our courage into we translate our compassion into sharing, our longings for peace and justice into action. We challenge ourselves to live our Unitarian Universalist principles by bringing healing and hope to the larger community. We honor the transcendent mystery of creation by nurturing the planet and all who live upon it." If you are attending for the first time, I want to invite you to sign our guest book in the lobby or our virtual guest book online, which you'll find the link in the chat. This will ensure that you receive our e-blast updates letting you know about various upcoming activities, from social justice and environmental events to virtual committee meetings, book group meetings, and more. We also invite you to spend time with us after the service for coffee and conversation. It'll be outside here in person or online. We will break up into randomly assigned Zoom rooms for people to catch up so that we can find comfort and connection together. As part of that comfort and connection, at this point in our service, we share a story for all ages. This is a book I have loved for a long time, and I'm only going to read the first chunk of it because it's like dozens of pages, but it was written in 1962 by Randall Jarrell and illustrated by Maurice Sendak, and it's called The Bat Poet. Not to be confused with the Batman. And here is a little Maurice Sendak illustration of lots of bats sleeping away. One time there was a bat, a little light brown bat, the color of coffee with cream in it. He looked like a furry mouse with wings. When I'd go in and out my front door in the daytime, I'd look up over my head and see him hanging upside down from the roof of the porch. He and the others hung there in a bunch, all snuggled together with their wings folded, fast asleep. Sometimes one of them would wake up for a minute and get in a more comfortable position, and then the others would wriggle around in their sleep till they'd gotten more comfortable too. When they all moved, it looked like a fur wave went over them. At night, they'd fly up and down, around and around, and catch insects and eat them. On a rainy night, though, they'd stay snuggled together, just as though it were still day. If you pointed a flashlight at them, you'd see them screw up their faces to keep the light out of their eyes. Toward the end of the summer, all the bats, except the little brown one, began sleeping in the barn. He missed them and tried to get them to come back and sleep on the porch with him. What do you want to sleep in the barn for? We don't know, the others said. What do you want to sleep on the porch for? It's where we always sleep. If I slept in the barn, I'd be homesick. Do come back and sleep with me, but they wouldn't. So he had to sleep all alone. He missed the others. They had always felt so warm and furry against him. Whenever he waked, he'd push himself up into the middle of them and gone right back to sleep. Now he'd wake up, and instead of snuggling against the others and going back to sleep, he would just hang there and think. Sometimes he would open his eyes a little and look out into the sunlight. It gave him a queer feeling for it to be daytime and for him to be hanging there looking. He felt the way you would feel if you woke up and went to the window and stayed out there for hours looking into moonlight. It was different in the daytime. The squirrels and the chipmunk that he had never seen before. At night, they were curled up in their nests, fast asleep. But now they ate nuts and acorns and seeds and ran after each other playing. All the birds sang and flew. At night, they'd always been asleep, except for the mockingbird. The bat always heard the mockingbird. The mockingbird would sit on the highest branch of a tree in the moonlight and sing half the night. The bat loved to listen to him. The bat told the other bats all about all the things you could see and hear in the daytime. You'd love them, he said. The next time you wake up in the daytime, just keep your eyes open for a while and don't go back to sleep. The other bats weren't sure they would like that. We wish we didn't wake up at all. When you wake up in the daytime, the light hurts your eyes. The thing to do is close them and go right back to sleep. Days to sleep in. As soon as it's night, we'll open our eyes. Won't you even try it, the little brown bat said. Just for once, try it. No. Why not? We don't know. We just don't want to. At least listen to the mockingbird. When you hear him, it's just like the daytime. He sounds so strange. If only he squeaked or twittered, but he keeps shouting in that weird voice of his. Once you get used to it, you'll like it. Once you get used to it, it sounds wonderful. "All right, we'll try," they said. But they were just being polite. They didn't try. The little brown bat kept waking up in the daytime and kept listening, and one day he thought, I could make up a song like the mockingbird. So when he did, he went over and over his words until he could say them off by heart. That night he said to the other bats, I've made words like the mockingbird so you could tell what it's like in the daytime. Then he said to them in a deep voice, because he couldn't help imitating the mockingbird, his words about the daytime. At dawn, the sun shines like 1,000,000 moons, and all the shadows are as bright as moonlight. The birds begin to sing with all their might. The world awakens and forgets the night. The black and gray turns to green and gold and blue. The sun hurts, one of the other bats said. It hurts like getting something in your eyes. That's right, said another. And shadows are black. How can a shadow be bright? And what is green and gold and blue? When you say things like that, we just don't even know what you mean. And another one said, and it's just not real. When the sun rises, the world goes to sleep. Oh, but go on. We're sorry we interrupted you. Say the rest. But when the bat tried to say the rest, he couldn't remember a word. It was hard to say anything at all, but finally he said, Tomorrow I'll say the rest. Then he flew back to the porch. Eventually he went to sleep. But he kept on making poems like the mockingbirds. Only now he didn't say them to the bats. One night he saw a mother possum with all her little white baby possums holding tight. And another time, 4 squirrels spent the whole morning chasing each other, and he made up poems about them all. Sometimes the poem would make him think, it's like the mockingbird. This time it's really like the mockingbird. But sometimes the poem would seem so bad to him that he'd get discouraged and stop in the middle. And by the next day, he'd have forgotten it. But one day, he approached the mockingbird. Now, the mockingbird had bad days where he would try to drive everything out of the yard, no matter what it was. He always had this authoritative look, as if he were more alive than anything and wanted everyone else to know it. The day the bat went to him, the mockingbird was perched on the highest branch of the big willow. The bat fluttered to the nearest branch, hung upside down from it. Finally, when the mockingbird stopped singing for a moment, he said in his little high voice, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. You like poetry? Asked the mockingbird. I love it. I listen to you every night, every day too. It's the last poem I've composed. It's called To a Mockingbird. Well, that's wonderful. Wonderful. Of all the things I ever heard you sing, it's the best. Well, this pleased the mockingbird. Mockingbirds love to be told that their last song is the best. It's a pleasure to sing to such a responsive audience. Anytime you'd like to hear it again, just tell me. Yes? Do you suppose that you could hear it again? Of course you can. I'd be delighted. Now, do you suppose a bat could make poems like yours? A bat? Well, I don't see why not. I mean, he couldn't sing them, of course. He doesn't have the range, but that's no reason he couldn't make them up. I suppose for bats, a bat's poems would be ideal. Sometimes when I wake up in the daytime, I make up poems. I wonder if I could say you one of my poems? A queer look came over the mockingbird's face, but he said cordially, I'd be delighted to hear one. Go right ahead. He settled in with a listening expression. The bat said, a shadow is floating through the moonlight. Its wings don't make a sound. Its claws are long, its beak is bright. Its eyes try all the corners of the night. It calls and calls. All the air swells and heaves and washes up and down like water. The ear that listens to the owl believes in death. The bat beneath the eaves, the mouse behind the stone are still as death. The owl's air washes them like water. The owl goes back and forth inside the night, and the night holds its breath. When he finished his poem, the bat was holding his breath. "Why, I like it," said the mockingbird. "Technically, it's quite accomplished. The way you changed the rhyme scheme is particularly effective. And it was clever of you to have that last line 2 feet short." 2 feet short? It's 2 feet short. The next to last line's iambic pentameter, and the last line's iambic trimeter. An iambic foot has 1 weak syllable and 1 strong syllable. The weak one comes first. That last line of yours has 6 syllables, and the one before it has 10. When you shorten the last line like that, it gets the effect of the night holding its breath. "I didn't know that," said the bat. "I just made it like holding your breath." "Sure, to be sure. I enjoyed your poem very much. When you've made up some more, do come round and say me another." The bat said that he would, and fluttered home to his rafter. Now, as I said, this book goes on, where he tries out poems with all of the animals of the forest, and some of them are confused and so forth, but to his credit, this tiny little brown bat keeps trying, keeps writing poems, keeps taking one more step. So that's why I love this story. Thank you for letting me share it with you. After our story for all ages, here's another way that we sum up UU with our unison affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and welcoming hands. Now let us hear from our Emerson Choir as they sing "We Are" in an arrangement by our choir director, Eloise Porter. Thank you so much. I will confess, when I heard that, oh, the choir's going to be singing "We Are," I was so excited. I felt so lucky. So thank you again. Part of what we are, of course, is what we build together as a community. Somebody asked me this morning, actually, so how are the finances here? And I honestly said, I have zero idea. I've just been trying to get through like you. But of course, what I do know is that this church is utterly reliant on what we contribute to it through pledges, through online donations, through our weekly offering, through our time, through our talent, through our treasure, and especially, of course, through financial support. We are not like a lot of places that can always fall back on getting support from the diocese or the district office. This is our church in every full sense of those words. So you can donate through the online app or through the link for donate.emersonuuc.org, or you can be old school and mail in a check to the church office, or all of those. You could do them all. You can also, of course, donate as we listen to our offertory, and then following Kevin's music, we will join in our group response for the offering.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge that people are still suffering from COVID as we speak. People that you and I know. We have now exceeded 1 million deaths from COVID in the United States. During the pandemic, we lit a candle of caring as we entered this part of the service where we share our hearts with each other. I'd like to engage in that ritual again here. And we take a moment now to remember those we have lost, those working to save us, those who still struggle with these challenges. We light this candle in honor of all those working on the front lines in hospitals and nursing homes, grocery stores and gas stations. We light this candle to send our love to those dying in isolation, especially those who we know and those who are loved by those we know. We light this candle to send our love to all those grieving alone. We light this candle in recognition of the enormity of this pandemic's impact on each of us, on those we love, on everyone, especially those already challenged by poverty, racism, transphobia, ableism, xenophobia. We light this candle in grief, in honor, in recognition, in love. We are in this together. We strengthen our beloved community through the sharing of our personal milestones. Here's where I'm going to enlarge something to read it from our online book of life. Our granddaughter was over on the weekend and tested positive for COVID last Sunday morning. I'm not sure about whether these are all for what week. It is concerning that Lloyd Dent is making such a slow recovery from his chemo and radiation treatments, writes Doris Dent. The granddaughter news was shared a while back by Heather Medvitz. Also here in our Book of Life in the Sanctuary, Pam Randall writes, lighting 10 candles for the lost lives in Buffalo, 1 candle for the shooter. Todd Covert writes, I wasn't delighted and sometimes overwhelmed by the turnout and passionate commitment at the Bands Off Our Bodies rally at the Civic Center yesterday. Thank you. I wondered. You wrote, wasn't? That's all right. All right. Thank you. So I'm going to read it again correctly. I was delighted and sometimes overwhelmed by the turnout and passionate commitment at the Bands Off Our Bodies rally at the Civic Center yesterday. I could imagine feeling sometimes overwhelmed, though. It was loud sometimes. But it was also great to be there with so many people feeling that commitment to reproductive justice. I'd also like to take a moment to just voice the name of my sister, Christy Nelson Weiss, who has lost a lot of her voice for several months following a medical procedure. I'd like to take a moment now in the silence to let you share the names of those people in your lives and around the world whom we wish remembered this morning. I ask you to hold these names and all these joys and sorrows in your hearts, as well as those that are too tender yet to be spoken aloud. Now, we're going to test courage in a different way because we had a little, we had an email that got lost in the ether. So therefore, we don't have words for our next hymn on the screen. But it's really simple. And of course, you could get your own hymnal here, but for those of you at home, it's really simple, and I can teach it to you because it only changes a couple words every line. We're going to sing 168, One More Step. So the words are one more step. We will take one more step till there is peace for us and everyone. We'll take one more step. The third line of that changes a little, but basically in the first verse it's one more step, then it's one more word, then it's one more prayer, then it's one more song. So let's cross our fingers and try this. Here we go. One more step. Oh, thank you, Rise. I love that.
One more step. We will take one more step till there is peace for us and everyone. Will take one more step.
One more word.
One more word. We will say one more word.
Till every word is heard.
Till every word is heard by everyone. One more word.
One more prayer.
One more prayer. We will say one more
Till every prayer is shared.
Till every prayer is shared by everyone. Say one more prayer.
One more song.
One more song. We will sing one more
Till every song is sung.
Till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Thank you. We did it. Please be seated. Out of practice, forgetting to ask people to rise. Sorry. Thank you. It's been a while, but a number of times over the years, I've assembled these services that were built around sharing poetry around a specific theme. Usually it was to support the work of a particular poet, such as Wendell Berry. But I often think of the time I did that Wendell Berry service about 10 years ago. Several actors joined me on the chancel and read from his work. It was very well received. We had a sabbatical minister at that time, Reverend Frank Rivas, and I asked him what he thought, and he said, well, it was nice, it was really nice, but I think you should have shared something a little more personal in there about why you chose this. I mean, he was really polite about it, but I thought, wow, yeah, you have caught me out, because I wasn't honestly ready at that time to share a lot of my own feelings from the pulpit. Even though I'd been putting together services like holiday pageants and coming-of-age services for many years, I was more comfortable letting the work of other writers speak for me. Because it's one thing to talk about your opinions between people, even people who might disagree with you, but it felt like another thing to me to stand in a pulpit and do that. But since that time, I've tried in services to speak more personally, to share more of my own hopes and fears. But I recognize from my own experience that sort of thing doesn't come naturally to everyone. But I'd also like to think that's a little part maybe of why we are here in a UU congregation. Because while there are a few people in our congregations who were raised UU, many of us, maybe even more than in other denominations, are people who came to UU from other faith traditions. And we may have found some value in those other faiths that we previously participated in, or we might have sworn them off totally, but we had problems with those other traditions, questions they couldn't answer, questions we didn't even always feel allowed to ask. So we had to have the courage to take issue with those traditions, and in many cases to leave them, even though it meant conflict with our family members or our community. That's one reason I felt so at home in UU when I finally discovered it at the ripe old age of 37, because here it was expected that you would ask questions, you would take issue with things. We used to have a line in our new member welcome services where we would invite our new members to, and this was the exact wording, to shake us up with their honest thinking. That is not what most faith traditions ask for, to be shaken up. That is what said to me that there is a courage in UU that spoke to me and that maybe could help me find the courage to keep shaking things up myself. We are in a time, you don't need me to tell you, that requires a lot of courage. Sometimes it feels like a lot to ask that. Everybody understands those times where you have to chill and recharge for a day, a week, a month, a congressional term maybe, but like one of our hymns, we will take one more step. Now, sometimes it's easier to fight for someone else than it is for ourselves. Yesterday, as I said, I went to that pro-choice rally downtown. I took photos of people with their signs and shared them on social media. The one that got the most reactions was this petite older woman whose sign said, "I know, I'm standing up for myself. I'm such a bitch." Wow. You can't, I found like I couldn't not love that sign and the humor and the irony and also the courage. Now, as many of you know, I write fiction for various media. What's great about that is that I can let my characters argue. I can let them shake things up. I get to live all sides of the argument. Sometimes that requires a different kind of courage, the courage to put yourself in someone else's shoes, the courage to make mistakes, to rewrite and rewrite until you find the thing that is nagging at you. Every writer experiences this, but also even if you are only writing a Mother's Day card that you bought last week and you thought, "Dag, I need to write something in this," you still wrestled with questions like, is what I'm writing here honest? Is it meaningful? Does this provide words that need to be said? And that brings me to the poets that we're lifting up today, because it takes a certain courage to write truthfully to family members or to your diary, and then even more so maybe to voice honest, important thoughts in a form very different from the way we ordinarily talk, and to voice it to people who you don't even know, who won't even necessarily forgive you if you misstep in the way that friends and family would. I mean, of course, poetry is liberating in some ways. There aren't so many rules. Or are there? I mean, you heard what happened to the Bat Poet. He's just trying to speak his truth, and then someone wants to get him all caught up in craft and meter and technique. And he has to search for an audience, and he's not really sure what he should be writing about. Poets write as we all live, searching, trying to find out what rules really apply to us and what rules we should just discard, trying to figure out what we need to say and who really needs to hear it. Some poets might not give a damn who hears it. They lean back and proclaim, as Walt Whitman did, "I am untranslatable. I sound my barbaric yawp over the roofs of this world." Please feel free to text me later on and let me know if any of you feel so moved to look out across the valley and sound your barbaric yawp across the roofs. But meanwhile, to celebrate courage and to celebrate poetry that inspires it, we'll share some poems this morning, some very short, some a little longer, 16 in all. Some of these poets are writing about courage and what it is and how to find it and what it feels like when you live it. Others are writing about the courage to speak up, to write, to find your voice. Some are funny, some are not. But all of them are voices that we would not be hearing except for their courage. As I said earlier, I used to actually ask actors to do this kind of service, but lately we've all been so spread out from each other that I thought it would be good to hear from some of our own community. So I asked someone who goes way, way back with Emerson, Paul Markowitz, and then there's me, who kind of goes kind of way back, and then someone who's only been coming to Emerson in this century, Glinda Tumay, and then lastly, one of our brand newest members, Amy Noel. I invite them now to come up to the chancel as we explore the poetry of courage.
Is this thing on? Okay. Do Not Be Ashamed by Wendell Berry. You will be walking some night in the comfortable dark of your yard, and suddenly a great light will shine round you, and behind you will be a wall you never saw before. It will be clear to you suddenly that you were about to escape, that you are guilty. You misread the complex instructions. You are not a member. You lost your card or never had one, and you will know that they have been there all along. Their eyes on your letters and books, their hands in your pockets, their ears wired to your bed. Though you have done nothing shameful, they will want you to be ashamed. They will want you to kneel and weep and say you should have been like them. And once you say you are ashamed, reading the page they hold out to you, then such light as you have made in your history will leave you. They will no longer need to pursue you. You will pursue them, begging forgiveness. They will not forgive you. There is no power against them. It is only candor that is aloof from them. Only an inward clarity, unashamed, that they cannot reach. Be ready. When their light has picked you out and their questions are asked, say to them, I am not ashamed. A sure horizon will come around you. The heron will begin his evening flight from the hilltop.
Connections Are Made Slowly by Marge Piercy. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot always tell by looking at it what is happening. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections. Create real nodes. Build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make life that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in. A thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us it is interconnected with rabbit runs in burrows and lairs. Live as if you like yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always, for every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes.
Good morning, everybody. Like Brian, I came at a late age. I started coming to this church when I was about 45. Okay. This poem is by Alice Walker, and it's entitled Women. They were women then, my mama's generation, husky of voice, stout of step, with fists as well as hands. How they battered down doors and ironed starched white shirts. How they led armies, head ragged generals, across minefields, booby-trapped ditches to discover books, death, a place for us. How they knew what we must know without knowing a page of it themselves. Alice Walker.
Constantly Risking Absurdity by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Constantly risking absurdity and death whenever he performs above the heads of his audiences, the poet, like an acrobat, climbs on rhyme to a high wire of his own making, and balancing on I-beams above a sea of faces, paces his way to the other side of day, performing entrechats and sleight-of-foot tricks and other high theatrics, and all without mistaking anything for what it may not be, for he's the super-realist who must perforce perceive taught truth before the taking of each stance or step in his supposed advance toward that still higher perch where beauty stands and waits with gravity to start her death-defying leap. And he, a little Charlie Chaplin man who may or may not catch her fair eternal form, spread-eagled into the empty air of existence.
To Fight Aloud is Very Brave by Emily Dickinson. To fight aloud is very brave, but gallanter, I know, who charge within the bosom the cavalry of woe, who win and nations do not see, who fall and none observe, whose dying eyes no country regards with patriot love. We trust in plumed procession, for such the angels go, rank after rank, with even feet, in uniforms of snow.
Okay. This poem is by Mary Oliver. To be human is to sing your own song. Everything I can think of that my parents thought I did not think, I don't do. I opened windows, they shut them. I pulled open curtains, they shut them, if you get my drift. Of course, there were some similarities. They wanted to be happy, and they weren't. I wanted to be Shelley, and I wasn't. I don't mean I didn't have to avoid imitation. The gloom was pretty heavy. But then, for me, there was the forest, where they didn't exist, and the fields, where I learned about birds and other sweet tidbits of existence. The song sparrow, for example. In the song sparrow's nest, the nestlings, those who would sing eventually, must listen carefully to the father bird as he sings and make their own song an imitation of his. I don't know if any other birds does this in nature's way, has to do this, but I know a child doesn't have to do this. Excuse me. But I know a child doesn't have to, and I didn't. Thank you.
This is for Stephen Funk in prison for protesting the Iraq War by Shandell Beers. Stephen, in your cell, would you forgive me if from now on I promise to be brave? When I picture you alone and lonely, I wonder how I could have been so weak to have gone home the first time I was asked. Protesters should be made of stronger stuff. Lately, things have made me question the stuff I'm made of. What is it that makes me me? What would I give my life for a cause if asked? What is it within us that makes us brave, or in my case, and many others, weak? And is it true that the strong die lonely? Since those who stand for something stand alone, I wonder what you think of all this stuff in letters from all of us outside, weak-willed, well-wishers, sending thanks, signing meekly in shaky script, supporting your bravery from the comfort of our homes. When asked to protest the war, I failed. One guard asked me to stop leafleting. So all alone, I put the flyers in my car, such brave work here, and rewarded myself by stuffing my face with soy burgers and fries. My spirit was lifted, good deed for the week, accomplished. I wasn't faced with my weakness until the next day when I was asked about the protest, how it went, and my stammered answer made me feel so alone in a world of heroes who've done great stuff and deserve to live in this home of the brave. Stephen, from your story, I've learned bravery. I've resolved never again to be weak when it comes to things that matter, the stuff of life and death. If someday someone asks you, was it worth it? No, you're not alone anymore, because you've proven to me and others that if asked, we can be brave, that our weakness is not made of different stuff than courage. It's just us. Sure, we're not alone.
I may, I might, I must, by Marianne Moore. If you will tell me why the fen appears impassable, I then will tell you why I think that I can get across it if I try.
Thank you. All righty, I follow instructions. Okay. This is a poem from the collection And Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. And it's Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You ain't trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Do you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my hauntiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I rise. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that is rooted in pain, I rise. I am a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slaves. I rise, I rise, I rise. Thank you.
From Song of the Open Road by Walt Whitman. Afoot and lighthearted, I take to the open road, healthy, free, the world before me, the long brown path before me, leading wherever I choose. Henceforth, I ask not good fortune, I myself am good fortune. Henceforth, I whimper no more, postpone no more, need nothing. Done with indoor complaints, libraries, querulous criticisms, strong in content, content, I travel the open road. The earth that is sufficient, I do not want the constellation any nearer. I know they are very well where they are. I know they suffice for those who belong to them. You air that serves me with breath to speak, you objects that call from diffusion my meanings and give them shape, you light that wraps me and all things in delicate, equitable showers, you paths worn in the irregular hollows by the roadsides, I believe you are latent with unseen existences. You are so dear to me. O highway I travel, do not say to me, do not leave me. Do not say, venture not. If you leave me, you are lost. Do not say, I am already prepared. I am well beaten and undenied. Adhere to me. O public road, I say back, I am not afraid to leave you. Yet I love you. You express me better than I can express myself. You shall be more to me than my poem. I think heroic deeds were all conceived in the open air, and all free poems also. I think I could stop here myself and do miracles. I think whatever I shall meet on the road, I shall like, and whoever beholds me shall like me. I think whoever I see must be happy. All seems beautiful to me. I can repeat over to men and women, you have done such good to me, I would do the same to you. I will recruit for myself and you as I go. I will scatter myself among men and women as I go. I will toss a new gladness and roughness among them. Whoever denies me, it shall not trouble me. Whoever accepts me, he or she shall be blessed and shall bless me. Whoever you are, come travel with me. Traveling with me, you will find what never tires. The earth never tires. The earth is rude, silent, incomprehensible at first. Nature is rude and incomprehensible at first. Be not discouraged. Keep on. There are divine things well enveloped. I swear to you there are divine things more beautiful than words can tell. Forever alive, forever forward. Stately, solemn, sad, withdrawn, baffled, mad, turbulent, feeble, dissatisfied. Desperate, proud, fond, sick, accepted by men, rejected by men. They go. They go. I know that they go, but I know not where they go. But I know that they go toward the best, toward something great. Whoever you are, come forth. Or man or woman, come forth. You must not stay sleeping and dallying there in the house, though you built it, or though it has been built for you. The road is before us. I give you my hand. I give you my love, more precious than money. I give you myself before preaching or law. Will you give me yourself? Will you come travel with me? Shall we stick by each other as long as we live?
Bravery by Todd Boss. A rung's come broken in the ladder to the mow, and so one hesitates to clamber up there just to bomb a cow with dung or bother swallows from their rafter cakes. It takes a new footing somewhere in the ribs treads, about heart height, to climb it now. A new gaps in the smile that smiles from the limed barn floor. But soon one of the neighbor's sons, too young to know it was otherwise once, braves it. And soon, even with a sweater swaddled kitten or a BB gun, all the kids can do it again, nearly at a run, like pros. And so it goes, as before.
Courage by Amelia Earhart. Courage is the price that life exacts for granting peace. The soul that knows it not knows no release from little things, knows not the livid loneliness of fear, nor mountain heights where bitter joy can hear the sound of wings.
Courage by Harold Arlen.
Your Majesty, if you were king, you wouldn't be afraid of anything?
Not nobody, not know how. Imposterous.
How about a hippopotamus?
Why, I trash him from top to bottomless.
Supposing you met an elephant.
I'd wrap him in cellophant.
What if it was a brontosaurus?
I'd show him who was king of the forest.
How?
How? Courage. What makes a king out of a slave? Courage. What makes the flag on the mast to wave? Courage. What makes the elephant charge his tusk in the misty mist or the dusky dusk? What makes the muskrat guard his musk? Courage. What makes the Sphinx the seventh wonder? Courage. What makes the dawn come up like thunder? Courage. What makes the Hottentot so hot? What puts the ape in apricot? What have they got that I ain't got? Courage. You can say that again.
Okay, hope this is better. Try not to get the pops. This is Blessings for the Journey by Reverend Jill Terwilliger, a Unitarian Universalist Reverend. For the longing that told you it was time for a change, we give you our blessings. For the courage it took to answer the call, we give you our blessings. For the choices already made and for the daily choices that will shape the lives ahead of you, we give you our blessings. For the communities that have shown you who you are and the new communities waiting to discover you in your new ventures, we give you our blessings. For the great mystery of what lies ahead, we give you our blessings and our love. May you see something of beauty along the way. Touch hands with those you love, give more than you get, and find some pattern in it all. Amen.
This is Stairway by my friend Michael Wright. Shall we climb again this long rising stairway? And you say yes, as do I, and you say yes again, as do I, and the year slips away, folds its butterfly wings and turns to a mere wisp of cloud into day one, once again, begin again, anew. It is raining in Puerto Rico, glass cold in Germany, sweeping winds cleanse the Arabian Peninsula, and love embraces all. The love that is the laughter of an unworried child, the love that is the meeting of eyes across a table, the love that is in your hand and mind at this twitch of a second, and the one that follows, and the one after that. The steady song that is the heart of all our hearts, keeping time with the cosmos. The swift engine of light crossing delicate skies on other planets where other eyes follow and trace. The holiest of holy moments where breath is sharply taken in, cleansed for that instant by the absolute beauty of all there is and all there ever was, all that ever will be. The songs that lift us taller, the art on the walls, in the air, the ever-cleansing whisper made by a million voices saying, please, yes, please, let this all be for something and never for nothing. Let me live, let everyone live, let everyone be happy and well. Let the walls shout back at us, hooray, we echo you. And the joy that is infinite within your absolute heart of hearts. Let the feet that move us to walk on this sphere be the feet of goodwill and kindness. Let the strength of our hands be the softness therein. Let the collective soul rise and rise to fill the sky with the luminescence that is joy, that is revelation, that is wonder. And let us all wonder at wonder, to keep it fresh before us as we know it exists. The magic of a single voice shining in crystal dark night. The revelation of, yes, 10 fingers, 10 toes, and my baby is whole. The tremor of recognizing across the room, across the street, across the ages of all time, coherence that Yes, that is the person I best love in this life. The amazement to find our own face looking back in the mirror, the pleasure of watching it watch back, whether in the moment we love or hate ourselves or simply look on, there we are, us seeing ourselves, and maybe in such an instant we can recognize the features of every other human being and animal on the planet. The thing looking back at us is the everything and all, the sheer sense of, yes, again, wonder and awe, the absolute majesty of how this all exists. How did it happen? How did we get here? What are we? This could shake the very core. So step back, stand still on the long, long, long climb up the stairs and look ahead and then look behind and revel. We are just a whispered sigh out of the mouth of something vaster than we can begin to imagine. We are the tiniest pore, the merest stirring of a breeze, there and gone, noticed perhaps only by what we move as we pass by. Yet, in this instant of a tiny flash against the majesty and mass of the cosmos itself, we are what it dreams of as it moves slowly outward through the eternal dark. We are the note missing from its song, the scintilla of color absent from its painting. We are the only reason for it to exist, to have something to sense, to never know and to miss all at the same instant, trivial, minute, infinitesimal, yes, the workings of a deity's fever dream. We are the thing like a falling star that cannot be seen by looking for it direct, only appreciable at the corner of its eye. And in that, we are its joy. For though we cannot know it, it cannot know us, and there is comfort. So let us climb the stairs, even as our backs throb. And yes, the babies sometimes do not have all 10 fingers, and life is for everyone in one realm or another a hard, hard battle. Even if, and even so, let us lift up one foot then the other and continue up the steps. For somewhere another Mandela is being born, another Gandhi is scratching wisdom from salt and sand, another Mother Teresa and Malala are telling secrets to one another beneath and behind their veils, raising up the towers of give and give and give until all so tall the spires. We look daily upward toward not some invention called heaven, but merely to the stars from where we came and from whose essence we are made of. Star stuff, yes, and in the next breath, we inhale a molecule of the Buddha, an atom of Muhammad, the sheerest particle of Jesus. And out we breathe them, and us, and in again, and out once more, and in again, and again. And yes, you say, and so do I. And yes, again you say, and so by everything that is human and holy and profane in me, so say I. Yes, and yes again, and yes again. Climb the stairs, let us go on and on, ever gently upward.
We're in the home stretch here, people. From Keep Moving by Maggie Smith. Put one foot in front of the other and believe that the road will be there. Be proud. You are not only traveling a new road, but making it as you go. Keep moving.
Thank you, and let's have a hand for our readers. In the spirit of Keep Moving, let's rise and sing hymn 121, We'll Build a Land. 121.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bind up our tidings to all and all those who mourn, and will give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land, building up ancient cities, raising up devastations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice may roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where the oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build a land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Please stay standing. We extinguish our chalice with these words from our church's namesake, Ralph Waldo Emerson. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. I salute the courage within you all. Shalom, salam, namaste, alleluia, blessed be. Thank you. Thank you so much.